latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm giving you guys a bit of a pitching / sort of tutorial video about how you can pitch your Easy Camp day lounge or day tent, depending on which one you've got. So what I'm going to do today is actually use the day lounge from Easy Camp, just pitch it. The process actually, to be fair, is exactly the same. The only real difference in terms of the models is whereas one has kind of almost a ground sheet built into it, i.e. the day tent, and day lounge is more kind of sided and has a bit more flexibility. But from a pitching point of view, they're exactly the same regardless of which one you go. So all we're going to do is necessary is kind of open it up, locate where the poles are. The joys are kind of the principle of the day lounge or day tent. It's very simple to do, so it doesn't take an awful lot of setting up. Gives you a bit more of an extra kind of space under cover. To kind of do what you want to do with it, really. So what I want to do is probably identify what is where. So it's a square design on the base. So what we do is just spread it out a little bit. That's one entrance and that's one there. So we'll make this front corner, make this back corner. So I'd recommend by starting point is to find the corners as such. Now what I'm going to do is essentially is peg directly through the corners and spread out so we've nicely secured on the ground. Admittedly, pegs do come supplied, but I'm going to use my own pegs just for the time being. So we're pegging the base out. We've got a nice solid platform to go from. There are kind of almost tapes around the actual kind of tent itself as well to make sure you don't kind of oversplay them and it's going to sit in position. So get out nice and square. By doing this first, like I said, we've got a nice protection against the weather. Doesn't matter if somebody starts a bit of a gust, it's all nicely secured down. And also it means that we can make sure that the straps aren't kind of tangled at any stage as well. So personally I'm going directly through kind of the eyelets. Just get attention away from it. Initially we can kind of tweak it once the poles go in, but it just gives us a nice sort of basis to work upon. And then, there we go. So once we've got it nice and pegged down, we've got two fiberglass poles. Both fiberglass poles are the same length, so you haven't kind of got to worry about what goes where. It's worth saying actually with the day tent as well, you do get some additional kind of poles to give it a bit more support if you want to bring the door into kind of a canopy section. But with the lounge that I've got with me today, you've only got the two fiberglass. There's a sleeve that quite easily opens just along the roof of it. So the joys this means is as we come to feed it and get that ring and pin in the bottom, it means we haven't got to worry about feeding it too far along the sleeve. But what you find is when you've got a sleeve that's essentially quite long, it restricts the flex in the pole, making it harder to get the whole sort of pole itself in the ring and pin at the bottom. So by having it a bit, admittedly, it's going to be a little bit structurally unstable in comparison, but you kind of benefit from the ease of pitching. So we'll feed that through nice and neatly. As we kind of feed it through, so we're careful it's not going to catch anywhere. And keeping tension obviously going in one direction so the pole doesn't start coming undone. There we go. I try and get an equal split of the pole itself, so it's kind of a 50-50, so that when we come to pitch it, there's the right amount of tension on either side. You've got a pre-angled joint that's worth bearing in mind, so you want this probably about maybe about half a foot or about 20 odd centimeters from either side to the end. So once we're in this position, what we want to do is basically choose a side to start with and put the sort of ring in the pin. So you've got a pin directly down there that merely inserts into the base of the pole, and again you want to keep it, the weight and sort of the tension point going in that same direction to keep it in place. If you can get a bit of strain on it, it's going to help you kind of in the long run. Ideally you want a second pair of hands because you can almost get someone to go directly inside of it, lift it up, and then that will take the weight and the strain out to the poles, and you tend to be a bit more in control of it. Admittedly, on a windy day, this is kind of quite crucial, and we're going to basically do kind of cross point from one to the other. So as I lift it up, we're just going to pull the fabric back a little bit. I've got the main bulk of the weight, ideally in my right hand here, and we're just going to angle that up a little bit, dig the pole into the ground a little bit on that side, and that will kind of help it position itself. Again, all we're going to do from this point here is just feed that directly in, and because we've got kind of tension on either side, it kind of sits in this sort of semi-position. From here, again, we'll make sure that the pole is equal on both sides. We'll feed that back through. And what I've kind of actually cunningly done is I've used almost in the cross section, there's one that sits above the other. By doing the one that sits in the top first, it essentially lifts the bottom one up, making when you want to slide it through a lot simpler and easier to do. So now we've kind of feed that directly through. Ring and pins are directly in the bottom. We can clip that onto, so clip the canvas onto the actual pole itself. So it's quite nice and stable. Just by going around again, just make sure all neatly done up. Now, with the lodge itself here, the toggle points you can toggle in afterwards or before. Personally, before I like to properly guide out and tension it, I'd recommend doing the panel up. Just from that point, it means that you haven't got to worry about overstressing it, and you can actually quite happily get into every single part. Get me a little clip on the bottom of the pole. Yes, 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 I know, it's in there. Oh, come on, get your little fingers and thumbs. There you go. Just clip that on the pole again. Quite a simplistic design. It's not something we've not seen from anywhere else before. But I think for me, which I do like about the East Camp, is that the price point is really quite attractive. You know, it's not actually overly expensive, and still as a solution, where it be used for camping purposes, or if you want to use it necessarily for kind of the likes of, you know, for a sports days or to the beach, you could probably easily use that. From here, all we'll do then is obviously undo kind of the guide points, and then peg it out from there. We've got a few obviously guide points to get the tension onto, but we've also then got some low level points just to peg and keep the material quite taut. With these kind of shelters, generally they tend to be structurally stronger when all the sides are done up, naturally because it means there's less kind of ability to kind of twist in kind of the frame. They always tend to be a bit fair weather, I'm being honest with you anyway, so they're not designed to sort of stand an awful lot of storms, but it offers a solution for storage, generally for kind of using it as a bit of a base. So if you've got, say, you know, for a cooking point, or if there's a few families going together, that also works really quite nicely as well. So once we've kind of physically pegged it, we'll just make sure it's all clipped on. A lot of the doorways have this kind of extra baffle section, so by bringing that back across, it makes sure you kind of got a bit of a lip between one way, so the wind is less likely to get in. So we'll just peg that down now. We've got a separate kind of little review video as well on this product, so if you wanted a bit more information about sort of the spec things of it, as well as other information on the pack sizes and widths, you can always have a look at that. Of course, you're more than welcome to check the link below this video. It'll take you straight through to our website. We've got that same information all at a touch of a button on both the lounge and the actual tent itself. But in essence, that's kind of how in principle how you're going to peg it. This is one thing I'd probably do, is double cross those pegs over into the main zip. Just means it makes the zip easier to kind of put up and put down. The tent itself would be the same thing. It's got a sewn in ground sheet, or a ground sheet at least in it anyway, so you've got a bit more probably easier of pitching it and getting it taut initially. But as you can see, very quick, very simple, offers a really nice solution without having to take up too much time or take a lot of money to buy. So that's kind of a little pitching video. By all means, check our, like I said, review video on the product, as well as the day tent as well. But all in all, simple, quick, easy and effective. And that is kind of how the Easy Camp Lodge is.